growing up on the farm, you learn hard work does anything. That's the theory behind it. And I guess trucking just came along with farming because you have to haul your own goods. I've always had that. I'd rather do it myself. That's how I started the brokerage as well. Why pay a bunch of brokers when you can be the broker yourself?
Cut the middleman out.
100%. You can learn a lot of information by what other people do wrong.
Just sitting back and listening, and just
Absolutely.
whether it's from your customer, employees, or potential customer.
100%. I'd ask a question like, why did you let so-and-so go?
Yep.
Well, as they explain it, then I have a list of things that, hey, if we don't do this, we're fine.
Sure.
And service is everything.
It is.
Same in your guys' industry. Ours is the same.
Yep.
We push service because being a small carrier on the block, we compete with guys that have 700 trucks.
Sure.
And to get the bid, we've got to prove that we have the best service. You start something young, everybody, oh, you're not going to make it, yada, yada. I'm sure you guys have heard that too. And
just fuel to the fire.
Yeah,
absolutely. Literally. Yep.
Every year you should be learning something. If you're not learning every day, you're going backwards.
All right. Welcome to the 5th episode of the American Dream Podcast. I'm Blake Waters with Insignia Screen Printing and Bluff Valley Campground.
And I'm Cole Nelson with Maverick Construction and Legacy Skis. Today we also brought in a guest, Cory Klein.
Hi, I'm Cory Klein with Klein Trucking and Logistics and also the Klein Farms.
So this week we wanted to bring in Cory Klein with Klein Trucking and Klein Farms. He really has a lot of experience in business, started business here a number of years ago. And has a family farm that he's, partially taking over. So he thought it'd be a good fit to bring him in and share some of his experiences and what's worked for him and some of the failures that hasn't worked for him. So I guess the first one here, Cory, share your how did it all come to be? How did you decide to go into business, trucking in particular, and just kind of share where you've been?
Absolutely. Well, growing up on the farm, you learn hard work does anything. That's the theory behind it. And I guess trucking just came along with farming because you have to haul your own goods. Well, riding in the truck growing up, I always thought, hey, this is pretty cool. Like driving stuff, you can make money doing it. Why not give it a shot?
Sure. Cool.
That's kind of what sparked the...
Sure. Did you end up, when you started, did you truck for somebody else or was it pretty much on your own?
I did. I worked for a couple of construction companies driving dump truck, kind of did some different stuff. And then I started over the road January 1st of 2015. And after the first 6 months, I suppose, I decided I might as well just do it on my own.
Sure. 2015, almost 10 years.
It'll be 10 years this summer.
10 years this summer.
10 years. And how many truck drivers do you have now working underneath you?
We've got... 7, 8 owner-operators, I think, right now, or 9. I'm not sure without the spreadsheet in front of me.
Sure.
We work with 4 full-time open carriers that have their own authority, and then we brokered 20, 25 different open carriers as well.
Sure. It'd be a pretty big operation. I don't suppose you're probably in the truck much anymore.
No, I haven't been trucking full-time since 2020.
What was the big... thought process behind like getting out of the truck and kind of getting more in the office and kind of running the broker side of things?
It actually came more to the farm side of things. As my dad progressed in age, I thought I need to find a way to get out of the truck and be in the office more rather than, just to be around to help him.
Yep. Be able to be out in the field and
Absolutely.
Still keep the trucking going and keep that all busy.
100%. That was kind of the push.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. That's pretty interesting. That's pretty big growth in even 5 years, and then from 5 years even.
And we've been bigger and smaller than we are right now for good reason. Grew too fast, got myself in trouble, had to kind of reel it back in.
Yeah, dial it back in.
I think you guys covered it in one of your episodes about good growth, bad growth. Well, everybody learns that in their own way sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep. You see it, you're able to see it and then kind of redirect yourself to get where you needed to be.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, that's very interesting. So what else drove you to, when you started a business, was there something more, or what really was it that really fed for you to do your own instead of working for somebody else?
Well, I happened to see a rate sheet of what the actual truck was getting paid versus what I was getting paid as a driver, which
Sure.
I completely understand. They need to make money too, but I've always had that I'd rather do it myself. That's how I started the brokerage as well. Why pay a bunch of brokers when you can be the broker yourself?
Sure.
Cut the middleman out.
100%.
Yep.
That was my theory.
Yep. Well, it's very, very smart business looking at the whole thing and kind of building off of that. What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced along the way? Whether that from like just starting out, or was it moving into the brokerage, or?
I would say the number one challenge in the beginning was getting financed. You know, when you're 22 years old, nobody wants to borrow your money, you know, because they don't know if you're going to be responsible with it, etc. I mean, even with a co-signer, the banks are still like, whoa, you know, we don't want to deal with this kid.
And that's for like the first truck you're saying?
100%. That
Yeah.
trucking has a bad name in the finance industry too.
Sure.
You know, it's probably one of the highest bankruptcy level businesses in the country, I would guess.
A lot of like not knowing their numbers and thinking they're making a bunch of money and not putting their expenses aside for.
Absolutely. Most people think if the wheels are turning, I'm making money.
Yeah,
That's
not the case.
That's a recurring thing. Know your
Oh
your
yeah,
numbers.
that is
Talked about
that is the foundation to the American dream. You know, you don't get to those goals without knowing your numbers, and then I'm sure you learn that pretty quick. You know, you think you're making a bunch of money at the end of the day, and you get home and you're like, I just busted my butt on the road for 2 weeks straight, and I come home and there's not much left for you at the end of the day. But
100%. I actually still have my original cash flow. It's a piece of notebook paper with all the numbers written down.
from the very beginning,
Yep. I've kept that because it's pretty interesting.
or like that. Yeah, as long as you're writing them down and checking everything. That's
100%.
good to look back and reminisce on where you're at and where you're at now.
To add the second truck, I was going to make an additional $300 a week. That was the goal.
That was the goal.
Yep. To add the second truck originally.
sure. Have you found any correlations between, kind of tying in the farming side of things? Have you brought any of that over into the farming side? I mean, your dad's been doing it for a long time, obviously. He had his ways of doing things. I mean, has there been any benefits?
Some of it, absolutely. Dad was a good teacher. You know, I mean, if you watched him and paid attention to what he did, he was big on, pay attention to cash flow, don't spend extra money, more on a conservative trend with it, I would say. You know, if you don't need it, don't buy it kind of a thing.
Sure.
You
Making the best with what you got instead of just going all out and spending on things you probably shouldn't be spending it on.
Absolutely. Fix it yourself.
Yeah.
He's always been big on that. We do all of 90% of our own maintenance on the farm.
Sure.
Yeah, and the hope is probably to keep that growing as well, kind of keep both of them growing as we head into the future.
100%. And that's where with the trucking, I've angled less towards W-2 employees and more towards like general contractor, owner operators. Just that way it's more self-sufficient so I can focus more on the farm. I mean, long-term, my goal is to grow the farm more than the trucking now.
Sure.
That door's progressively open more and more every year.
Mm-hmm. How many people do you have in the trucking side as far as employees or even subs included?
Total would be, with Klein Trucking on the step and office staff, there would be 12 of us total. Yep.
Staff to manage.
Yeah.
I don't know every day.
And we've had more. At one time we were at 18, and I mean, times got tough, so you kind of, I don't know how to word it correctly, but trim the loose fat, so to speak.
And one of the things I live by is like it's all about who you know and not what you know. Maybe touch on that a little bit about how maybe who you know has kind of helped you develop your business into what it is today.
So that's actually how I got started in general. Grew up working at Turbos, my older brothers, and I got to know a pile of truckers, seen a lot of different stuff. And I mean, you learn word of mouth, you'll learn just as much as you will in college. I mean,
Just-
within reason, of course.
Yep. Just getting out there and shaking people's hands and putting the pieces together.
100%.
Yeah.
Because the first guy I leased on to did almost the exact same run we do now, but I do it completely on my own now, and I never took a thing away from him.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep, well, those relationships are key to, everything, I think. And that's with trucking. I'm sure you've met a lot of people and doing things the right way and making sure that, when a Klein Trucking comes across their screen, whether it's a business shipping or you see them on the road, that you're keeping that integrity going, like you mentioned.
Absolutely. Also met a lot of people who do things the wrong way as well. Because it's fun to learn from those guys because, you hear them complaining about something, and you can learn a lot of information by what other people do wrong.
Just sitting back and listening and just
Absolutely.
whether it's from your customer, employees, or potential customer.
100%. I'd ask a question like, why did you let so-and-so go?
Yep.
Well, as they explain it, then I have a list of things that, hey, if we don't do this, we're fine.
Sure.
Klein Trucking, and then Klein Farms, obviously you're in the small community as all we are. What are some things that, you've done in the community to maybe help your branding? I'm sure you have some employees that are within the community and
Absolutely. And I actually have not done a lot of advertising. I've done mostly word of mouth. You know what I mean? Usually when you see a semi come burning through town, everybody looks to see, who it is. And I mean, I've just tried to have good equipment, polished up, try to keep stuff looking nice.
It makes a big difference.
Yeah, that stands out because you don't notice a, dirty old pickup driving down the street. You notice the one that's, shiny.
Yep.
Clean that out.
That kind of goes along with like that customer experience because when they see your vehicle, semi, whatever it is, all taken care of, at the end of the day they're probably going to have a good product or service. Like you go down to a mechanic shop and they got stuff everywhere and trucks piled into the ditch, and you go into their shop and there's tools laying everywhere on the floor on top of things, and you look in the back of their truck and it's a mess. Like what things are they going to miss while they're working on your stuff when it's they're the way I look at it is how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Absolutely.
So if you can't even do like the simplest things of cleaning up and having things nice and neat, then at the end of the day, the service isn't going to be there, in my opinion. So,
and service is everything.
It is.
Same in your guys' industry. Ours is the same.
Yep.
We push service because being a small carrier on the block, I mean, we compete with guys that have 700 trucks.
Sure.
And to get the bid, we've got to prove that we have the best service.
Can you get a little bit more money versus some of those guys
Sometimes.
versus like just providing that good service? You're going to answer the phone when when it rings, and you're going to get that load there instead of maybe if they're in charge of 700. There's a lot of room for error when you're in charge of that many.
And that's why we have as many customers as we do.
Just building that solid
100%.
core of people and
Absolutely.
Just
And
doing
doing,
it
saying, hey, we're going to be there on a Tuesday. You show up Monday night.
you're there ready to rock and roll. You're not going to make
Absolutely.
the excuse that it snowed on Monday night and you
Right,
couldn't
or
make
the-
it there
Or
Tuesday.
the driver magically disappeared.
Yep.
Was
Was that one of those things you learned listening to people?
100%.
Is being it's not 15 minutes early is on time. It's almost the day before sometimes in the trucking world.
And I've always pushed 90% of the places we go, there's room to park. I'm like, just park there the night before. They'll
Yep.
wake you up, and then you're the first truck in the door. You're out. You're on to your next thing.
The wheels are turning
Absolutely. In a good way.
in a good way. Yeah. You're not just running around Deadhead and then
Correct. And our deadhead miles are very low. We've strived for that because there was a guy I leased on to probably my second, maybe third year, and it was probably 60% deadhead miles. I mean, mind you, the loaded miles were good, but I picked up on the experience from that. I was like, I don't want to do that. It just seems foolish to me.
yeah, it's like working overtime for less money instead of just working 40 for more money. And at the end of the day, you come out way ahead.
100%.
As technology, you mentioned, picking up on some of the efficiencies of that. I'm sure there's some CRM of sorts or technology that you guys use to help logistics flow a little bit.
Sure is. It's actually a TMS system is what it's called, and I don't know what the acronym is. But it's like, say if we bill a load, it puts it in, moves it over, and I mean, it just categorizes it all the way down. I don't have to, I used to handwrite bills in the beginning.
Handwrite, call, and then they don't pay, and then you call them again, and then you got to
100%.
remember to call.
Drive to Illinois and knock on their door and say, hey, I need this check.
Yeah. Now it's just all
I did that
automated
a
and
couple times in the early days.
For technology, has there been anything else? I mean, on the farming, side, obviously a lot of things have changed in that realm. What other technologies have kind of helped efficiencies or?
And in the trucking side, there's not so much. They push the e-log thing, which makes time management more, I don't know what the word for it is, more prominent, I'm going to say. On the farming side, I mean, we've gone in the last, what's it been since, let's say the last 10 years, we use the same time frame. We've upped our efficiency by, I would say, probably 25, 30%, in saving seed, making the fertilizer more, everything work better together.
Was that something you had pushback from your dad? Because me growing up in a family business, when I started stepping in, honestly, probably about the same time you started doing all your stuff, being we're similar age. I was taking place of what my dad was doing, so there was a lot of pushback, and I was trying to make things efficient. It's like, well, let's not dig a hole with a shovel, so we can use a skid loader type of deal.
Absolutely.
Did you have a lot of that when you were trying
There's
to?
still a fair amount of pushback.
Sure.
I've been trying to get them to use auto steer and tillage, for example,
Yep.
just for the efficiency factor. But he'd prefer to do it the other way. So I mean that is
Sure.
what it is. But I think on the planting end of it and ripping, deep tillage, I think he sees the benefits to utilizing technology. Because I mean, you figure if you overlap 2 feet when you're only covering 18, I mean that's a pretty high percentage.
Did it take like breaking it down with numbers for him to really understand it, or did he kind of see it right away?
It took more just doing it.
Yeah, just
just kind of, as we updated a couple trackers, they had it, and I just kind of did it,
sure.
and
And then
like,
we see
hey,
'em.
see how nice this works?
Yeah, you're not overlapping, burning fuel, especially during COVID time when
Everything was
pricing is crazy. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
No, that's important stuff. Obviously, business, trucking, farming, neither one are necessarily easy businesses. Not that any business is easy, but what is it that keeps you motivated to get up and do business every day and fight the good fight and try to live out the American dream?
Honestly, it's because I love it. I must be cross-wired somewhere. I mean, I wake up every day and I just want to do it. I don't have any real other reason other than it's the dream I had. I actually wrote a paper in 3rd grade about wanting to farm and truck someday. Well, and that's what I'm doing.
here we are,
Absolutely.
literally living the dream.
That and to prove all the naysayers wrong. You start something young, everybody, oh, you're not going to make it, yada, yada. I mean, I'm sure you guys have heard that too. And
Just fuel to the
just fuels
fire.
the fire.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
literally. Yep.
It definitely takes a special wire. I think that's important to bring up that it's it's not easy, it's not glamorous, it's not what everyone might think you should do or teachers or whatever that have told you differently, and sometimes when it's a fit, you just have to kind of go with your feeling and
100%.
not a buck. So
What's been one of the most like motivating things to really like go to the next step more than just like telling the the naysayers or sticking it to them?
More setting your own goals. And I mean, I set some ridiculous goals for myself. I mean, I wanted to be at 10 trucks by the time I was 27 and, different things. And it's once you achieve the first goal and set the second, it creates momentum that is unbelievable. And it's almost like a dopamine addiction, to be perfectly honest,
Sure.
because it's the feel good of making the goal and everything else. You just kind of keep,
Yeah,
just
just
keep
trucking
going with
along, literally.
literally. Absolutely.
Yeah.
has there been any mentors that have really truly that stand out that have helped you along the way through the years that has really pushed you or helped you in times where you didn't really know which way to turn?
So trucking is very secretive, right? Like nobody wants to give you information, etc. So it's more tidbit advice, like, hey, maybe you shouldn't do that. You should do this, like instead of running this fuel card, maybe you should just try this one, like that kind of advice. But there's never been a true person to come out and say, hey, this is the way everything works. This is what you should bid. It's all hush hush because you never know.
You might be bidding against them. So yeah.
100%. So that was probably another one of the biggest challenges too, is there's no book to doing it,
Sure.
which there isn't in any business either.
Yeah. No, I think that's just part of the figuring it out and just kind of that drive to keep going and setting goals and
100%.
at the end getting that reward of getting somewhere. Obviously, you have a lot more figured out than you did 10 years ago, and it's a
God, yeah.
thing.
Every year you should be learning something. If you're not learning every day, you're going backwards.
Yeah, it's the same. We were just talking about that the other day with like business growth, and it's not like you have to have like huge growth, but the second your business isn't growing anymore, you're going backwards, and
100%.
you're not going to be able to keep up with the new stuff that's coming out, and you might not realize it now, but 5-10 years down the road, you're going to probably be going out of business if you're not keeping up with everybody.
Absolutely.
There's no end in business at the end of the day. There's no get to a point where all of a sudden you got it figured out and you go spend your winters in Florida and you don't do anything. I mean, that's hopefully in 30 years or maybe when you want to exit the business.
That's when the legacy takes over.
Yep.
That's the goal.
The theory, anyway.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess what's something that's next for Klein Trucking or Klein Farms? I mean, where's the top, or is there a top?
I don't think there is a top. I mean, honestly, I'm watching for an acquisition on both, to be perfectly honest, because we're getting to a point where the boomers are getting to the age where they're starting to retire. So I'm trying to set myself up to where if there's another trucking company similar size that meshes well, that I can acquire it, and I kind of want to go that route because it's already established.
Be a big jump instead of bootstrapping every single step of the way.
Absolutely, because every time you bootstrap, your strap might come loose and you might slip.
It could, yeah.
And I've definitely learned that the hard way too.
Come tumbling back down and have to rebootstrap.
All right back up the same ladder.
Yeah.
So what do you look for in order to get to those goals? If you're going to continue to grow, what do you do for yourself? Is there kind of continuing ed or different things that you attend, conferences, personal development that
Kind of more so, I do more on the farm side for that because the trucking side, I delegate that. I actually have two guys who do a fantastic job and I trust them with it. So I just kind of oversee the main management. But on the farm side, I go to like chemical meetings, like we're learning about drones now for fungicide because we have this tar spot thing in the world, which comes out of nowhere, but now it's a problem. So we're trying to learn better ways about that, how to become more efficient, new machinery. It's if you can afford it, but that's,
You touched on
absolutely.
delegation. What was like the big driver to be able to like get it off your chest and like because we're kind of both in that same stage right now of like delegating things in our business that are taking up too much time so we can focus on more high value tickets. What got you to that point and like what were you able to like tell yourself to be able to delegate and like sleep good at night?
It was actually starting the brokerage because I know nothing about brokering. I mean, I understand how it works,
Sure.
but I don't know the calls in, calls out. So I hired them guys and we kind of started it, and then it turned into delegating a little more because I trust them.
Sure.
We've worked together since 2017, I believe. So I mean, we have a very good working relationship, and it's a hard pill to swallow. It's really hard not to micromanage, which is dangerous.
It is, yeah. That's
Definitely
definitely noticed that for sure.
that's literally digging your own hole with a shovel as you micromanage because you do that too much, and all of a sudden the gentleman who you're delegating to is going to get sick of it.
Yep.
So is there a time frame of when you really thought like delegation like needed to happen now, or was there a moment in time that happened that you just realized that you couldn't physically do, get in a truck, do the brokerage and all the things?
Absolutely. It was more so when the brokerage took off and I started picking up more on the farming because, I mean, I was trying to dispatch out of a tractor all the time, which sounds fun until it's not. I mean, when you're farming with dad and, you're sitting on your phone, you can't.
Yep.
It made everything not fun and it made it too stressful to where when I first delegated, I couldn't truly afford it, but I just made it work because sometimes that's what you have to do.
Did you take a pay cut just to let the business grow and breathe and
100%. And I mean, I left the pay cut alone on that end. And then as I took that cut, I gained more in other ends because
Sure.
I was doing a better job elsewhere.
yeah.
Kind of the pass off. I think that's a struggle. It's a struggle for me, right? You're taking that delegation, you're taking that pay cut, you're paying someone else to do it, and then sometimes feel that you aren't going to make it, or you can't afford it, like you mentioned. It's just kind of that leap that it has to happen. But
100%.
when you can delegate your time to other things that will grow or continue to bring in revenue, then obviously it works out at the end. It's just kind of believing in yourself and trusting yourself.
It's,
It is going to work.
like I say, a hard pill to swallow.
The quote I heard the other week is you can't build $1 million business on $10 tasks.
Yeah.
So just
Absolutely.
finding those tasks that are $10 and delegating those, kind of like you're saying, and then focusing on those big $1,000 tasks and et cetera that are going to build the growth through your business.
Absolutely.
Have you been with employees in delegation? Have you brought people in that you've had to get rid of that aren't a right fit? And
Absolutely. I mean, it's just like any business. There's some guys who are gung ho to go trucking, and it's just they're not truckers.
sure,
They might make a great local delivery trucker, but the over the road that takes a special individual to do.
Being away from the family and long days
100%.
and weather and
And when
everything
all of
else.
us started, we were in our 20s. None of us had families yet. Well, a lot of them guys have progressed into that.
Sure.
a little harder to do.
Absolutely.
Have you had a couple of your guys from the very beginning with you this whole time?
Brent's been with the longest. He'd be 2017, 2018, right in that realm. I
Sure.
don't remember the exact date, but yeah, that was.
It's a good stretch though.
He
so
would
far.
have some pretty good stories. How we got this thing rolling. I mean, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. There was a lot of sleepless nights. Wake him up. Hey, let's go. Doing things not necessarily by the book to make everything right, which is trucking to a T.
Yep. Yep.
Well, business to a T. I think sometimes you've talked about it, kind of that work-life balance and trying to do all the things. And sometimes it's not possible to do both. And sometimes you just got to burn it. And that's just the reality of the situation.
Sleep is optional.
Yeah, sure has to be sometimes.
Sure does. Yep.
So if you could give one piece of advice to someone that's just starting out in business, or maybe they're in a similar situation as you were, graduating high school, is maybe thinking about it, what would that be?
The biggest piece of advice, and there's actually two parts to it, and I think about this a lot because it's one of the biggest mistakes I made in the beginning, is keeping your overhead down. I mean, overhead is your biggest enemy in business. I mean, it's great.
It's always
You know,
there.
absolutely. And the problem is once it gets so big, I mean, how much can you hold, before your back will break? And be patient.
Sure.
Because I'm one of the most impatient people in the world. I mean, I started at 22.
Sure.
I
Yep.
mean,
See a shiny object, go get it, and
100%.
Yep.
Acute raccoon syndrome to a T.
Yeah, and I think that overhead thing's a piece because, people get in business, and especially when, you are getting work and you're getting busy, you see the checks coming in, and maybe you have a good stretch for 6 months and going out to buy that, brand new truck, especially, I think what's seen most in the business is the personal items that people buy. People go buy a new truck or a new boat that's not going to make you any dollars.
Right.
Checks are coming in, and then all.
It still costs you the same when the times go down.
Yep, exactly. It's
Yeah,
your
no.
own, and then all of a sudden you can't make the payments on your business.
Absolutely.
So I think those are pretty big takeaways: is being patient, and just knowing your numbers really. At the end of the day.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to build up that 6 month safety net of cash.
At least.
Yeah.
At least.
I mean, obviously, the more overhead you have, probably the bigger safety net you should have. But
Absolutely.
starting out, definitely that 6 month is definitely a good starting point because, especially in Minnesota, when we're a lot of seasonal jobs and businesses up here, you think you're doing good by the time October rolls, and then February's rolling around and there's no snow, and you expect it to be plowing snow, and you're not making any money. So
Weird. It's almost like that's happening again.
that's weird. Yeah, exactly. Right now.
100%.
We kind of covered a lot of business goals. Do you have a personal goal for 2025?
Absolutely. I would say the biggest personal goal I want to get to is actually a tractor pulling goal of all things, which is a terrible habit to have. But, I want to at least make it through the season without breaking down as many times as I did. We'll see if that's achievable or not.
Where do you do most of your tractor pulling? Is it mostly local, or are you going to get kind of traveling?
We do most of it's local. Follow the Borderline series, which is Lake Elmo, Zimbrota, Mazeppa. We do 2. I think we only get to do 1 this year because they're redoing the sewer plant. Zimbrota, they're all around the local area, and it's a great group of people. Getting quite competitive. Absolutely.
Always keeps you motivated to make sure the business is doing well.
Sure does. Because tractor pulling used to be cheap until you get to the next level, and all of a sudden nothing. It's just like anything. Once you try to level up, everything gets a little more costly.
Yep, that's how it goes.
Every inch is a couple $1,000s more.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
On the goal side of things, over the years, I've known you for
Ever.
how many years? We're all gone now.
Used to put Legos together, man.
Things have obviously changed, and we've grown up over the years. The high school and some of the bad decisions, that we've all made. I guess what are some of the takeaways or even advice / goals that you would give someone young? We've had plenty of our drinking stories or anything like that, and I think we're both pretty much on the same level, today. But
Definitely.
is there anything that you would say this on that?
For young up-and-comer, I would say probably just watch your P's and Q's. The world isn't the same as it was 10 years ago. You can't get away with stuff. They take driving tickets very seriously. I've had to turn a lot of guys away due to speeding tickets, seatbelt tickets. I mean, insurance companies are cracking down on stuff. And every ticket you get is a point against your license in the trucking world.
Sure.
Yep,
no, it definitely is a different world in that sense, and I think those, watching your personal life is just as important.
100%. It's a little hypocritical for me to say, but absolutely.
All right, as we kind of wrap things up here on episode 5, talking about Cory Klein's trucking and farming, is there anything you kind of want to leave us with? You kind of gave some personal and business advice, kind of how to get started and everything else. Is there anything else you're kind of holding on to that's kind of a little gem?
Don't be afraid to do it. Don't be afraid to take the plunge. It seems scary, but once you do it, get by the first 6 months, first year, it gets easier every day,
Those are good words to live by. So,
yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in here again today. Give us a follow on the socials, Facebook, YouTube, and we hope you guys enjoyed our first guest here, Cory Klein. We appreciate you coming in and
thanks for having me.
Yeah, and sharing all your thoughts with us, and we hope that it is helpful to people out there wanting to live the American dream.
100%.
Heck yeah, and today's a good day for a good day.
That's right. Thanks everyone.